Hi friends, in the last video I went over a handful of books that I am planning on using for my fictitious assignment on nurses during World War II, and today we are going to take a closer look at some of those books and I will explain why I selected them for my assignment. So the first book I showed you was Remembering the Good War. This is a general book on World War II, so I'm going to go in the back of the book where the index is located and look up nurses, and then I'm going to go straight to those pages that have information about nurses and see what information I can gather to use in my paper. So we have many students who think when we hand them a stack of books, they think they have to read all the books from front to back in order to do their research assignment, and that is not what research is. If you're doing that, you're basically doing a book report. So your goal is to find books that would be useful for your topic, and again, use that index in the back of the book, use the table of contents in the front of the book, and go straight to where you're going to find information that'll be useful for your assignment. So if my topic is nurses during World War II, I will probably find something useful in a general book about World War II. My next book is And If I Perish. This is specifically about frontline nurses, Army nurses during World War II. Clearly this whole book would have useful information in it. Again, I'm going to use that index in the back of the book to find specific pieces that will be useful for points that I want to make in my paper. Next we have Women Remember the War. This is a collection of stories from different citizens in a town in Wisconsin. I'm not sure where. So again, index in the back of the book, or the table of contents in the front. Women in Uniform, Chapter 3, will probably be useful for my paper on nurses during World War II. In the last video, I mentioned that this is a thin book, and sometimes thin books are not always what we're looking for at the college level, but because this is a compilation of personal stories, it would be appropriate to use in a research paper. The last thin book I showed you, if you remember from the video, was written for 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. That's the type of book that is not appropriate for college level research. So I point that out because I think you can get a lot of cues from just looking at books to see what would be appropriate for what you're working on or not. The next book is America's Women by Gail. This is 400 Years of Dolls, Drudges, and Helpmates, and Heroines. So again, the whole book is not about Army nurses during World War II, but there is a good chance that there will be at least a few pages that have information on those World War II nurses. Next, I have Double Victory, How African American Women Broke Race and Gender Barriers to Help Win World War II. Were there African American nurses during World War II? Absolutely. So this book would be useful. And again, Chapter 3, that's interesting, is called In the Military, and that's where we would find information on nurses during World War II. And the last book I have to show you is American Women in World War II by Doris Weatherford. Again, we don't expect you to read this whole book. You go to the index in the back of the book, you find information on nurses or Army nurses, and you go straight to those pages to use information from those chapters. So I hope that clears things up for you, and happy researching.